There's some talking point videos I do that I just know are gonna get a ton of heat, and this is definitely gonna be one of them. This is one I've thought about doing for a while now, but I feel like right in this moment is the perfect time to discuss it. If you've watched my other talking point videos, you know I'm never out to badmouth people or ideas or anything like that. I try and be civil. I try and be kind. I just do talking point videos when I have a point I'd like to make about a certain discussion. So this one has so many facets to it, and I know people are going to get upset with some of the things I say. So in advance, I apologize. I'm not out to make people angry or upset. And if I do make you feel like that, please hit me up in the comments and let me know, and I'll talk to you about it. So now that I got that out of the way, I would like to address the discussion of controls in video games. This goes for both consumers and gaming press. Critiquing a video game is subjective, of course. Nobody's going to have the correct opinion. But I feel like it's even more subjective when it comes to discussing controls. And right now, in this moment in the game industry, I feel like there's been a handful of examples of video games where controls have been really hotly discussed and debated. And it's so tough to look at and to try and pick apart because, again, there's just so many angles you can come at it from. And I think that's where my issue with not all of gaming press, or not even a majority of gaming press, but gaming press out there, I take issue with how they approach the whole discussion of controls in video games, because I feel like they're coming at it more, they'll say a game's controls are broken, but what they really mean is a game's controls are different from what they expected or are too difficult for them. Broken controls versus bad controls versus controls that give the player trouble. I think it all comes up when you look at established genres. So over the years, there have been games that have become like the blueprint for how you control that type of game. Obviously, Super Mario Brothers is the blueprint, or at least was the blueprint for 2D platformers for years and years and years to come, and is still to some degree today. There's, the realm of first-person shooters on consoles. There's established franchises like Call of Duty or Halo, where they do certain things with the controls. You expect the shoulder button to do this. You expect the two joysticks to do this. And by and large, a lot of the genre uses controls that are almost, exactly the same. So the problem comes up when a game comes along and it's like, hey, we're this type of game, and our controls are going to be a bit different from what you might expect. And people have an issue with going into the game with an open mind, in all areas, of course, but in controls, because they think, well, when I play Halo and Call of Duty, this button does this. Why doesn't it do this in this game? And that makes them think that the controls are bad or wrong. And it may cause them frustration because every time they go to hit a certain button, it's doing what it does in another franchise that they've played, and it does something different here. And I don't think that's wrong. I don't think that makes for bad controls. I don't think that makes for incorrect controls. It's just different. And different scares a lot of people, and different takes time to get used to, and different requires an open mind or an open approach to understand what the game is trying to do. And I really don't feel people, be it consumers or some game reviewers, take the time to really get into and explore that. And thinking like that, there's a whole nother discussion that opens up, like, I'm paying my money for this game. Why are you going to force me to relearn controls for the same things I do in other games? Why not just make them the same? And I can't say that argument is wrong either. Like, you're shelling out your money, you want to play it in a certain way, and the game won't let you do that. But, as the consumer, I can understand anger about that because you were expecting one thing out of controls and you got another, plus you can't change it. But again, I really don't think it's wrong. I don't think that it has to be one set way. There's certain games where developers feel their control scheme works better, and that's why they're doing it like that. Obviously, a developer's not going to make a game where they are going to make the controls broken on purpose and be like, boy, I can't wait to screw over the consumer. It doesn't work like that. There are games that are programmed poorly where the controls simply don't function as they're advertised. Now, that's a game with bad controls. Like something where you hit a button and the button is supposed to do one thing and that doesn't happen, or it only happens sometimes. Or you go to move your character and the character is unresponsive based on how you're moving the joystick. Like, those are bad controls. That I completely get. But when, you're playing a game and you just feel like one button should do something and it doesn't do it, and it does something else, I don't think that's bad controls. But again, that's just me. I mean, there's so many different ways to look at this topic, which is why it's so hard for me to cover. Let's take the recent example of Snake Pass. Now, Snake Pass's gameplay, by and large, is a 3D platformer. You explore an environment, you wander around and you find items to collect, you make your way to the goal. But the huge difference here is the control scheme. It controls unlike any other game, probably, that you've ever played. It controls very differently, and those controls are part of the experience. The developers set out to make a control experience they felt really conveyed the experience of slithering around as a snake, and also added in a level of depth to the controls to really heighten the experience. And when I was playing Snake Pass, when I first started out, I sucked at it, and I tried to reach items you need to collect, and I would fall into pits. I couldn't get the guy to go where I Noodle, sorry. I couldn't get Noodle to go where I wanted him to go. And that's how it was when I first started out. It was like that for a couple hours or so. Obviously, I wasn't fumbling around the whole time, but I was still coming to grips with the controls. But when I come into one of those situations, I think to myself, the developer made this a certain way for a certain reason. So I take myself out of that experience of, getting frustrated with the controls and sit back to purposefully learn the controls, purposefully learn what is presented in front of me. And when I take that time and practice and stuff like that, I find that the controls in Snake Pass to be one of the best parts of the game, because I really do feel it enhances the experience. The controls are absolutely 100% not broken. They are difficult. They are challenging. You have to do things in new ways that you've never done before. I understand all of that. But they are not broken. When I posted my video review of the game, there were a couple comments about how I made the game look so easy in the footage. And I responded to those people and I said, the only reason it looks easy is because I had been playing for a couple days at that point. I got used to the controls, I figured them out, I learned them, and I became good at them. So I didn't start off the bat being like a great Snake Pass player. I took the time to work my way through the learning curve. Obviously, I've been going around the internet reading reviews of Snake Pass because I want to see what other people are thinking, and I'm especially interested in what they say about the controls. And when it gets to the control discussion, I'm really disheartened to see when outlets are saying the controls are bad, the controls are broken, the controls are poor. I don't think any of that is true. I don't think it's true in the least. I think the controls are 100% functional and do exactly what they're supposed to do. The problem is, again, the reviewers aren't taking time to learn the controls. They're going in with preconceived notions. They're going in and getting frustrated. They're going in and not giving things a fair shake. And instead of, learning what is presented to them, they say controls are bad, and then they move on. Now, if a reviewer were to say the controls have a high learning curve, and I really struggled with them, and I just couldn't get any enjoyment out of the game because of that, now that I completely get, because the controls do have a learning curve, and some people might not be able to surmount that. So I'm down with that. I would think it's sad that they didn't get into the game and weren't able to enjoy it, but if you can't use the controls, then I can't fault you for saying you had a tough time with the controls. The difference is saying I had a tough time, they didn't work for me, versus saying the controls are broken, because broken means for everybody. You had a tough time means you had a tough time. So I think there's an important distinction there, and unfortunately I don't feel like some reviewers are willing to put in their time with the game and give it a fair pass, rather than just getting frustrated early on and being like, no, this isn't working for me. The same kind of conversation is going on right now for Rain World, which actually really shocks me way more than Snake Pass, because Snake Pass, before it came out, I expected it to get dinged on for controls, and it did. Rain World, I would have never imagined that a discussion about broken controls would have come up, but I've been reading impressions and reviews, and a good number of them talk about broken controls, and I'm like, man, this really surprises me. Then I started to think about it, and I'm like, maybe this is one of those cases where it's more like the controls are difficult or challenging rather than being broken. So I've been playing the game, and that's how I feel. The controls are definitely... I mean, it is a platformer. You're moving with the directional pad or the joystick. It's up to you. And you're jumping. But there's lots of little nuance to it. There's the whole idea of momentum and climbing up things and scurrying around. And the main character, the Slug Cat, has a certain feel to him, a certain way of moving. And there's climbing and balancing on things and scurrying along pipes and stuff like that. There's all different kinds of stuff. It's all very like momentum and physics based. So it's not like, a very cut and dry control scheme like Mario, where it's just pretty much run and jump, and there are some momentum elements to Mario, obviously. This is very different depending on like where you're standing, how you're standing, the type of terrain you're on, what you're trying to do, what your speed is, where you're looking to go for a jump, stuff like that. So controls definitely have a learning curve to them. And again, I went in the same way. I took time to learn the controls. I sucked in the beginning, and now I'm totally fine because I took time. I put the time in to learn the controls. And I don't think they're broken at all. Yes, challenging. Yes, difficult. Yes, learning curve, but not broken. I mean, this controls conversation has been going on for years, but I feel like right now there's a whole bunch of games that just came out, and there are games that are soon to come out, where controls is really at the forefront of the discussion about them. And for me, it's really, personally, it's sad to see games come out that I believe to be good, great, or excellent, that other reviewers lump on because they say the controls are broken or bad or poor. Again, broken is such a strong word that I don't feel is warranted in a lot of cases. There's such a big difference between broken and challenging, or broken and has a steep learning curve, stuff like that. I think what reviewers forget to do is take a step back from where you're at and put yourself in someone else's shoes. You've been, like reviewers, traditional gamers or hardcore gamers, whatever you want to call them, have been playing games like Call of Duty and Halo on consoles for a long time now, and those controls are second nature. They know them like the back of their hands. Now take somebody that's a newer gamer, or take somebody that's a casual gamer, and they come in and try and play something like that. There's going to be an absolutely massive learning curve. And if those people were to say, these controls are broken, they don't work. Like, why do I have to use two joysticks to look around? That doesn't make any sense. This doesn't work. It's broken. Those people that play those games will be like, they're not broken, you just need to put the time in to learn them, which is exactly what they need to do with these other games, and I feel like sometimes they're just unwilling to. This controls discussion opens up a whole bunch of different cans of worms, including one like remappable controls. All people will make the argument that all games should have remappable controls, and I could definitely see that being a positive. It would accommodate all different types of gamers, younger gamers, older gamers, new gamers, more experienced gamers, gamers with disabilities, all kinds of stuff. So it's very hard to argue against that idea. But then I also look at games, again, I'm going to go back to Snake Pass, games where the controls are so intertwined with the experience on a deep level that I feel the controls really enhance the whole experience that you're having. So I can see it from both sides. I don't think remappable controls are bad, but I do think that the developer should put something in there that says, this is our preferred control scheme, this is how we feel the game should be played to get the experience that we're trying to provide. And if they don't put remappable controls in there, then it just opens the whole window to all the discussions of bad, broken, and poor controls. These talking point videos are terrifying for me because I try and put a lot of thought into them, and then I do something that I think is good, and then I just end up deleting all of it. But I've done that too many times here. I've put together one that I can at least be okay with. So hopefully you guys feel the same way. I'm just hoping at the very least it opens up discussion about controls in general. If you've played the games I'm talking about and you have something to offer up on controls, please let me know. I'd be interested to hear. Also, let me know your thoughts about controls in general, the difference between bad and broken, and use examples. I'll be keeping tabs on the comments section. Thank you very much for watching the video. I hope you don't feel it was a waste of your time, and I'll see you again soon with another Talking Points. Hey guys, RMC here from Go Nintendo. If you like what you saw in the video, why don't you give us a thumbs up and maybe even subscribe? We'd love to have you. If you want to see what else we're up to, you can check out GoNintendo.com for 24-hour Nintendo news. You can visit us on Facebook at Facebook.com/GoNintendo. You can check us out on Twitter at Twitter.com/GoNintendoTweet. And we're even over on Instagram at instagram.com/GoNintendo. I put all the links in the description just to make it easier for you guys to follow. Thanks a lot.